first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. This is something that we do every weekday, starting at 1, going throughout the afternoon. And so thanks for finding us. And you feel free to join us for any of our segments. But today we are talking about something major when it comes to the Portland Trailblazers. And that is reports that the Trailblazers have been sold to the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes from the NHL, in part, along with a few other people, but the lead buyer being Tom Dundon. The reported price is $4 billion. Or somewhere around that amount, and we're going to be talking about that here today because there's a lot of questions that I'm sure a lot of you have. Much like you, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a lifelong Blazers fan. I used to work for the Blazers back in the day, so I'll just put that out there so you know. I am a Blazers fan, and I'm not going to hide that. But the fact is, you know, what does this mean when it comes to this new ownership and how that could affect the team? You know, all the questions that we have, and we thought we'd bring in an expert to do that with us. Joining us right now, we've got Dave Deckard from the Blazers Edge, editor-in-chief. And Dave, thanks you very much for joining us here today. You know, really appreciate you being here, and of course your insight that you have from all these years of coverage of the Trailblazers. And, you know, to start off, I guess, you know, I just want to be honest and ask you, you know, what were your thoughts when you heard about this?
Well, if you're a Portland fan, you want your next owner to be wearing a Bill Walton jersey and have Clyde Drexler bobbleheads, right? That's not exactly happening here. But for a person who is not local, this is probably about as positive of a development as you can get. Now, Tom Dundon is a financier, businessman, lives in Dallas, has his whole life, which makes you itch, except for Dallas already has a team, right? So that check mark is already taken care of. Also, this is not his first sports team. As you mentioned, he owns the Carolina Hurricanes of the NHL, who were an underperforming small market team around whom was swirling plenty of rumors about them moving when he bought them. They have not moved. In fact, for the last 7 years, they have made the NHL playoffs after missing it for 9 years straight. So he has sung this song before. Also, you have some minority owners with links to the Portland area, which helps. So, look, you're never entirely out of the woods when it comes to any of these business decisions. But again, for an owner who's not directly from Portland, this doesn't appear on the surface to be too bad.
That's good. I mean, a couple of things you mentioned there. I got a text from a buddy who's in South Carolina. He's just like, well, now we have a connection with the Carolina Hurricanes, you know, Portland Trailblazers with Tom Dundon. And I was asking him, you know, just the general sentiment around there about him as an owner. And that's one of the things he said, too, is that, you know, he came in and he made Raleigh a hockey town because the Hurricanes now going into the playoffs so many times, and that it's a huge fan base there, and that he actually invested in the team and did that. So you would hope, you know, that could be the same thing here for the Blazers too. Also that small market aspect, you know, as you mentioned, another small market, you know, comparatively, when you talk about Portland and Raleigh. And so that is good. I mean, and there was a statement, or not necessarily a statement, but the general idea here that they don't plan on moving the team. At least that's what reports are saying. They have no plans on that. You know, I think a lot of people will still say, look at what happened to the Sonics. You know, they said they weren't going to move them, and then they came in and moved them. But to your point there, though, him being from Dallas, Texas doesn't need any more NBA teams, I don't think. So that seems to be a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, as long as the team doesn't move, I think fans will ride through almost anything. You go up and down, but you want there to be a Trailblazers franchise. Now, the Sonics keep getting brought up, but it was A, different owner, B, different situation. I mean, the city of Portland and the state of Oregon have already tried, in essence, to bend over backwards to let the NBA know that not only do they want to keep the team, but they're ready to pony up partnerships to do it, to revamp the Moda Center. I don't know about rebuild. I know that the city probably wants to just redo it, not entirely build a new arena. But all the signals are that the NBA is going to get what they want. The new owner is going to get a spiff for, you know, the new ownership tax is basically doing something with the arena. That's going to happen. So I think everything checks off here, and probably it's going to be all right, with the caveat that you never really know.
Yeah, that you never really fully know what could happen. Now, talking about that when it comes to the stadium, so you think that because Adam Silver mentioned that thing saying, there may need to be a new arena involved for new ownership when somebody takes over the Trailblazers, and that was a comment he made that's gotten a lot of attention and a lot of talk about that. Maybe that was more of an offhand comment. I don't know, but he did say
I'm
that.
sure not.
You
No,
sure
I'm
not?
sure not. Yeah, because look, the Moda Center has been in a weird position for a few years. I don't know if you recall, but a couple of years ago, they sold it to the city for like $1. And then they agreed together, well, we're going to revamp it. But there was a big plumbing leak, and who fixes this? And there was back and forth about that. And, it's been in limbo. The Blazers have wanted a better revenue producing arena for a while. Well, you can't get that if you've been in town for all these years, right? Basically. I mean, you can, but you don't have the leverage. A new owner does. So Adam Silver was leveraging that. That doesn't mean that the league wants the team to move or even that they have plans for the team to move, but they're playing the leverage to get the arena renovated or rebuilt while they have that leverage, because they know they're not going to have it in 2, 3, 5 years.
Gotcha. So, do you think that they, from anything that you've read or anything that you've heard, do you think that renovation is more likely than a complete rebuild of the arena?
Well, it's hard to tell right now because the NBA is playing coy, right? They're not going to go out and seem like the bad guys and overplay their hand and demand a whole new arena. However, the city, of course, is saying, nah, we can fix the one we've got because that's considerably less expensive. So that's the only message we've heard so far. We have to hear back from the NBA and the new owners about their desires, and then somewhere they will meet. Until we hear from the person who's pressing that suit from the league side and from the new owner's side, we don't really know.
Gotcha. So we're kind of in limbo then for that part. Now, when it comes to the actual team itself, for him taking over as owner, there's been, and this is just public conversation. I read the chat boards and everything, just like everybody else, about the Allen estate and just not being there, about Jody Allen, maybe not necessarily caring that much about basketball. Again, I'm not saying that's true or not. This is just, what goes on when you talk about fandoms. But when you have somebody like this coming in, somebody like Tom Dundon, who did this, with the Carolina Hurricanes, building them into into perennial playoff, at least being in the playoffs, for what I think the last 7 years. What kind of a shift or what kind of a influence do you think he'll have when it comes to actually the team function itself?
It's hard to say until he gets in there. But there's reason to think that he'll be a little more like Paul Allen than Jody Allen. Jody inherited the team. I think, she was a placekeeper, and she didn't have a lot of experience when she took it over. She turned it over to the people in charge. There was a general manager shift in the middle there, but basically she's been letting other people run the team. I think Dundon probably is going to be more active, more passionate. Now, that can be a good thing or that can be a bad thing, especially in the current NBA. You can't make too many mistakes with this new CBA and the contracts and stuff. So you want your owner to be involved but not micromanaging. I assume that Dundon has learned that from the NHL, and, signs are positive. But again, you never know until he actually does it. But the Blazers right now could use a boost of adrenaline for sure, and he's more likely to provide it than Jody.
Yeah, to be a bit of a rallying cry maybe coming in there. And as you mentioned, him having that ownership experience already, that is, I would think, a positive of learning how to navigate some of those different things. The NHL has their own collective bargaining agreements and all that stuff that goes with it. So I'm sure, getting some hands-on experience like that, I would think would be a positive. What are the biggest questions for you going into this?
Well, it's hard to even know what to ask. The arena question is the biggest. It's the stuff we talked about first that really matters most. Keep the team in town, get your arena issues settled. If that happens, the Blazers are on at least a modest upward course. The next question is, who do you want in there? I mean, Joe Cronin has made some big moves this summer. There's some question whether the Blazers are really farther ahead because of them or not. We're going to have to see in the coming year. He's been in his seat, what, 4 years now? This will be his 5th. So at this point, you start asking questions. Half a decade, where's the team gone? Now, he's presided over a rebuild. We all understand that. But often new owners want to accelerate that. And there is some reason to anticipate that Mr. Dundon might. He said things in his Hurricanes press conference like, I value winning more than money, and we're going to make headway right away. So the patient rebuilding approach that the Blazers have been taking may not fly. And if he sees that old guard management as carriers of that torch, he may take it out of their hands. We don't know that. I don't want to speculate. I think it would be fine either way, frankly. But that's one big question. The next person who has to ask about their residency are the team upper management, the general manager, and then eventually the coach. I don't think that a new owner affects players right away. You don't get that granular, and it's harder to make those kind of moves. So I think that will be a longer evolution.
So a lot remains to be seen, and nothing's officially been announced on this as far as this ownership change. But yeah, Tom Dundon, and as you mentioned too, just to bring up just before we get done, just the other aspect there too of having some local ownership. So there are some minority stakes in this as well, and one of them being a local Portland person. So you would think that would be, as you mentioned, beneficial towards keeping the team here as well, and having at least some kind of a local tie into this. But definitely, I mean, it's a big moment. It's exciting. We knew it was going to be coming. I don't know if anybody thought it would be coming quite this quick and just kind of out of nowhere, but here we are. So Blazers.
It was quick. What a summer. I mean, look, you get Jrue Holiday, that's your single. Young Hansen, that's your double surprise and draft. Damian Lillard comes back, that's your triple, and now you got ownership change. It's a home run. The Blazers hit for a cycle this summer as far as their newsworthiness, and that's a big change from the past couple summers. So if nothing else, at least it's not boring around here.
Yeah, at least we have some things to talk about, that's for sure. Well, Dave, thank you for joining us to talk about this. I really appreciate your time and of course, reading everything that you have over there at Blazers Edge and just the, following along with it and the conversations that people are going to have. This is going to be a talker, I think, for a while. People are going to be having conversations about where this is going to go, but I think the bottom line is we just kind of got to wait and see for a lot of it. And hopefully all this trajectory goes in the way that the fans want. But we'll find out more once we get more information. And hopefully we can talk about that too once we find out some more stuff.
Sounds good. Thanks, Greg.
All right, thanks, Dave. And for everybody watching, too, this is Fox 12 Now. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. And again, this is something that we do every weekday, so we have plenty of different conversations and segments and different things that we get to discuss on here. Sometimes it's sports like this where, we can give a little bit of an opinion on that. Sometimes it's breaking news, so it could be whatever, it could be any number of different things. And that's between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Every weekday, and also sometimes between 11 and noon as well. So feel free to join us for that, for these live streams, or watch them after the fact, share these segments. You can go to the Fox 12 Oregon app and watch them there, kptv.com. So wherever you end up, thanks for doing so. But we're going to take a break for right now. Again, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.